Hello, students. Today we are going to study part 3 of chapter 2, that is Principles of Management. Now, let me give you the introduction. We had studied in the last session about the significance and importance and nature of principles of management. And in this part, we will be studying the contribution of F.W. Taylor, Henry Fayol, who are associated with classical management theory. Now, let's talk about F.W. Taylor. He was the one who gave the concept of scientific management, whereas Fayol had emphasized on administrative principles. Taylor was an American mechanical engineer who sought to improve industrial efficiency, and he was one of the intellectual leaders of the efficiency movement. That means he wanted the efficiency in work, whether that work is done at the top level or the middle level or at the lower level. So he thought that by scientifically analyzing the work, it would be possible to find one best way to do it. And he is very well known for the term called scientific management in his article, The Principles of Scientific Management, which was published in the year 1911. In earlier days of industrial revolution, there was an absence of established theory. That means all the managers and the owners of the business, they used to solve the problem on the personal judgment basis. That is, as and when the problem arose, they used to solve the problem according to the situation. But this was not enough. And this had referred as rule of thumb, which means solving the problem as they arise. Now, managing factories by rule of thumb enabled them to handle the situation as they arose. But there were certain limitations, and those limitations were of trial and error. Now, there was need to follow an approach that was totally based on method of science. When we say science, it is based on facts and information. So, he was of opinion that every problem should be defined. There should be an alternative solution to that problem. So if one method fails, we can adopt another. So he was of the opinion that the problem should be defined well. There should be an alternative solution. We should be able to measure the progress and then finally come to the conclusion as to which method is the best way. And in this scenario, he emerged as a father of scientific management. He proposed scientific management as opposed to rule of thumb. As I said, rule of thumb means solving the problem as and when they arise. But he was of the opinion that all the problems should be solved scientifically and in a systematic manner. Scientific management means knowing exactly what you want your men to do and seeing that they do it in the best and cheapest way. Let's say, for example, if I'm the manager of the company and you are the employees, if I assign you some work, but then I don't give you exact instruction as to what has to be done, how it has to be done, then obviously I cannot expect the results as I want. So it is very much important that you have to instruct your men as to what you're expecting. Now let's talk about the principles of Taylor. The first principle is science and not rule of thumb. That is, he meant to say, don't apply rule of thumb, but go according to the scientific method to solve the problem or to assign a task or to have a division of work. It is a but statement that all would not be equally effective. That means all the employees are not the same. Everybody has their own capacity, their own skill, knowledge, ability. So he believed that there was only one best method to maximize efficiency. And according to him, even a small activity in the production line, like let's say loading of pigs of iron into boxcars, can be sufficiently planned and managed so that we can save the time. This can result in tremendous saving of human energy as well as wastage of time and material. Second principle was harmony and not discord. The name itself suggests that there has to be a cooperation between managers, workers, and the owners. Factory system of production implied that manager was the link between owner and worker. And there always existed the possibility of conflict among the managers and workers. There should be complete harmony between all the levels of management, be it the top level or the bottom level or the middle level of management. Now, Japanese work culture is a classic example of such situation because there is openness between the management and workers. If at all workers go to strike, they wear a black badge but work more than the normal working hours to gain sympathy of the management. Now, here, if you observe, they are not just going simply on a strike by not doing any production, but in fact, they are producing more. They are working more to show that, look, we are working, but we are not happy with the management. Now, this work culture is very famous among the Japanese, and that's the reason they are number one or developing, very good developing country in terms of production. So there has to be a cooperation and not a conflict amongst the management and the workers. The third principle says that there should be development of each and every person to his or her greatest efficiency and prosperity. Now, we all know very well that industrial efficiency depends on your competencies. And as such, scientific management stands for worker development. So worker has to be trained so that they give the best output. Now, worker training was very much essential also to learn the best method of working. Taylor was of view that the concern for efficiency could be built in the right from the process of employee selection. To increase the efficiency, they should be given the required training, which means if I want to develop any person or if I want to increase production in my company, it is very much necessary that my workers should be trained, they should be educated, they should be knowledgeable so that they can apply all their skills, knowledge, ability into the work. So first, they should be trained. Efficient employees would obviously produce more and earn more. So why do we hire people who are educated and who are experienced? Because we know that if they carry the knowledge, then they would be able to perform better. And when you perform better, you get more incentive. So this was another principle of Taylor. Next one is, let's now talk about techniques. I hope you are clear with all the principles. Now let's move on to the techniques of scientific management. Taylor also gave few techniques of scientific management or as to how to manage work or how to analyze work. Now, the first thing which he gave was functional foremanship. When we say foremen, foremen are the workers at the lowest level who report to the supervisor, or the head or the production head. Now, Taylor advocated the separation of planning and execution functions. He said that everybody cannot perform all the tasks. So tasks have to be divided. There has to be the division of work. And division of work means dividing the work among the workers according to their skill, knowledge, ability, education, and experience. So foremen should have all the qualities, but practically speaking, it's not possible that a foreman can have all the qualities in one. So, or as all the qualities could not be found in single person, he proposed that there has to be specialists to do such activities. And that is why we can see in this diagram that there is a factory manager. Under him, there are planning in charge and production in charge. Now, this planning in charge would obviously give the instruction to the workers or the specialized person. And this specialized person in turn would guide the workers. Now, let's say, for example, if worker is facing any problem and he is not specialized into one particular activity and he is not knowing as to what has to be done, he can go to any of these 8, that is either instruction card or route clerk or speed boss or gang boss according to the specialization. He can contact them and they will guide the worker. In turn, the worker efficiency will increase. So this way, worker will have to report to all these 8 people and accordingly he can work. Next one is standardization and simplification of work. This is another technique of scientific management, that it is always better that if you want to get more output or more production, or let's say if you want your worker to be more efficient, then it is very much necessary that you should set the standard for work. Now, the best practices can be kept and refined to develop a standard which should be followed throughout the organization. Standardization means the process of setting standard for every business activity. It can be standardization of process or raw material or time or product or machinery. Now here, standardization means I'm fixing the standard that let's pick up any one, that is, let's say time. If I'm fixing or I'm standardizing the time that within 2 hours, at least 5 units should be produced by one worker. Now here I'm setting the standard that in few hours, a person or a worker can produce this much amount of units. If he or she is not able to do that task, which means that the worker is inefficient. So standard has to be set for every activity. These standards are the benchmarks which must be adhered to during the production process. The main objective of standardizations are, obviously, why do you standardize or why do you fix a standard for your work? The first reason is to reduce a given line or product to fixed type, sizes and characteristics. That is why we see that when we buy certain products, they are of the same size, color, texture. Now, why is it so? Why the products are not varying when we buy the same product each time? The product remains the same. The reason is the standards have been set for that product in terms of its size or shape or characteristics or features, anything. So first is to reduce to a given line of product. Next one is to establish interchangeability of manufactured parts and products, and to establish the standard of excellence and quality in raw material. As I said, that there are most of the products when we buy, they are of the same quality each time we buy, and the standard remains the same. So that is why standardization is very much important. Now, what is simplification? Simplification means when you're trying to make the process, a difficult process, into the simpler one, which means that you're trying to eliminate unnecessary diversity of products. Let's say for doing a particular activity, there is a process. But if in that process, if there is any unnecessary activity, which is a wastage of time or resources and it is not required, then that activity has to be eliminated. That is simplification. Now, this simplification results in saving of cost of labor, machines, and tools. That means you can reduce the wastage of your labor and machines and time. The next technique of scientific management is method study. Now, to do a particular job, we have n number of varieties of methods, but we choose only the method which is best. So the objective of method study is to find out one best way of doing the job. There are various methods of doing the job. To determine the best way, there are several parameters. That means we set the parameters that for doing particular job, one method, two method, or three methods. Out of this, third method is the best one based on the parameters. The objective of the whole exercise is to minimize again the cost of production, the time which is involved, the labor which are involved into it, and to get the satisfaction. Now, for this purpose, many techniques like process charts and operation research are used. For this, we can take the example of any automobile industry, let's say Toyota. They have this assembly line and they have the process chart that how the cars would be manufactured from one assembly line to another, and from second one to third one, or from third to fourth one. So this whole process is decided, and the production is done only up to according to one method. Now let's talk about another scientific technique, and that is motion study. Motion means study of movement like lifting an object or sitting or movement of your hands or legs in a factory when the worker is working in the factory for doing a particular job. Now, unnecessary movement has to be eliminated so that it takes less time to complete the job efficiently. Let's say, for example, that if there are three processes to produce one product moves from step 1 to step 2, but the time taken is huge because the distance between the assembly line 1 and assembly line 2 is huge. Now it is the duty of the manager or supervisor to eliminate that distance which is causing loss of time. So, and reduce unnecessary motion. These unnecessary movements are to be eliminated, and on the close examination of these motions, let's say for example, it is possible to find out whether whatever movement of the workers are being taken technique is time study as given by Taylor. It determines the standard of time taken, which means that how much time is required to do one particular activity. If one particular activity is requiring, let's say 1 hour to finish that task, then the time has to be studied as to whether enough workers are employed or whether suitable steps are taken to finish that work within the time limit. Now, the objective of time study is to determine the number of workers to be employed, frame suitable incentive schemes, and determine the labor cost. Here it is very important that the division of labor has to be right, which means 3 hours, right person at the right place at the right time, which means the worker has to be employed according to their knowledge, skill, ability, and experience. For example, I cannot put an engineer for a clerical work, or I cannot put a clerical person to the production department. So it is very important that there has to be the right person at the right place at the right time. So these three are very important in management. The method of time study will again depend upon the volume and frequency of the task, which means how much volume of work is given or how much time is being given for doing a particular job. Let's say if you're working for 8 hours continuously without any break, of course, you're bound to get tired physically and mentally. So it is very important that you need rest in between. And that is what fatigue study is all about. This is another scientific technique which is given by Taylor. A person is bound to feel tired physically and mentally if they work continuously without any rest. So a small amount of rest or break is required while working. And the rest or intervals will help to regain the stamina or work capacity will be improved if breaks are taken at the proper time. Now, fatigue study seeks to determine the amount of frequency of rest intervals in completing a task, which means, let's say if I'm going to work for 8 hours, it means that I would need in between at least a tea break and a lunch break, which is very much important for me to regain all the energy back. The next term which he gave in scientific technique was differential piece wage system. Wage means the salary or incentives which is given to the worker, and differential means giving the wages or salaries according to their work. So in this context, Taylor wanted to differentiate between efficient and inefficient workers. The standard time and the other parameters should be determined. So the worker who's more efficient is given more incentives, and the person who's not working well or not according to the standards which are set, then incentives would be given very less to them. So over here, let's say for example, if we introduce a reward working system that whoever works or finishes the task within the time frame, then that worker would be rewarded with extra incentives. Now the worker who's inefficient would try to cope up with the work even more better because he wants to prove and he wants to get those incentives. So he introduced this different rate of wage payment for those who performed above standard and for those who were performing below standard. Now to conclude, after studying all the elements and principles and techniques of the scientific management, we can consider the practical application of all these principles or techniques, not only in that time, but even in the modern times. At present also, we can see that these principles and techniques are still very important. And the latest development in scientific management is lean manufacturing. Now, when we say lean manufacturing, it means that in today's modern world, most of the industries now slowly they are replacing the, you can say, the labor techniques with robots, computers, and that is all about lean manufacturing. Thank you very much.